Hello, David. It's so nice to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my
I absolutely loved the film, and the movie is based off the book Good Morning Midnight by Lily Brooks Dalton. You always have the, book versus movie argument and vice versa. What do you think is so special about on-screen adaptations of written work and bringing those words to life?
Yeah, I've been really privileged to be in a few films that have been adaptations of great books. The thing that I've learned is that you have to really recognize that they are different mediums. A play is different from a film, is different from a radio play, is different from a book, is different from a short story, and you've got to sort of adhere to the rules of those different formats in a sense. And, I think that what George achieved so beautifully is to take the heart of that novel and to put it into a film, but also make it its own thing. And I think, the other thing is that a film is a sort of moving organism. Like, we didn't know that Felicity Jones was going to be pregnant, and it is something that was beautifully incorporated into the film. When George cast me, I'm someone who's very proud of my Nigerian heritage. And I was like, look, this crew is being set out to save the world. I would like one of them to have a Nigerian name, and George was like, okay, and so those are just small instances of how the Midnight Sky, it's kind of apt that it's called the Midnight Sky as opposed to Good Morning Midnight, because it is a derivation of the book. And I think that's what a great film adaptation does.
One thing that I noticed and that I really enjoyed was the diverse group that was sent into space to save the world. I don't know if that was a director's choice or what kind of choice that was, but I think it was a very strong and powerful choice. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I'm just so proud of George to make that choice. There have been many directors who've had the opportunity to do it and didn't do it. And what I also really appreciate as a Black person is to not be the only Black person. So often you're like the one, the token bit of color in a movie. And the fact that it was both myself and Tiffany Boone when there are only 5 astronauts, I just thought, wow, that is so great. Not commented on, it's not a big deal, but it's just the fact. And that is very reflective of life. There isn't only one Black person. Well, sometimes there's only one Black person, it's a whole other issue, but there shouldn't be. And so, that was something I really love George for putting in the film.
Space for me, I'm so interested in it, but it also gives me so much anxiety. So watching this film where some things, do go wrong, and being in a space movie yourself, would you ever go into space?
Absolutely not. Kayla, you and I are on the same page with the anxiety. I would not last 2 minutes in the spaceship on the ground, let alone it going up into space. No, that was all acting, and it is going to stay acting.
Well, you did do some stunts at zero gravity, having to simulate, being in space. What kind of work went into that and training beforehand?
Yeah, a lot of training. It was 3 months of training for me here in LA before heading out to London where we shot it. I had to get incredibly strong to be able to, make that weightlessness sell. And then, a bunch of stunt rehearsals, in London. It was a sequence that a lot of work went into, but I'm just so proud to be a part of. I watched the film with my kids the other day, and it takes a lot to impress my kids. And that sequence in particular was one where I thought, oh, okay, I think I got some daddy points here. So yeah, it was a really cool thing to be a part of.
Well, I have to say, it looked absolutely seamless. I loved the film. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. It was such a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you so much.
Thank you. Obviously, you're simulating being in space at zero gravity. Can you explain the way that you shot those gravity defying scenes?
Lucky us, we have George Clooney as our director for many different reasons, but also because he already had that experience doing Gravity with Alfonso Cuarón. And so he already knew the ins and outs of the operation. We were advised in advance that we needed to be fit. I'm glad I love sports and I exercise regularly. I always try to, be in good shape. But specifically, your abdominal muscles and your lower back, that's where all the work goes. So that alone was very, very intense. We were lucky to have a fantastic team of stunts, and they train us very, very nicely, and with so much love and care. They took care of us, and although you only see a few moments in the film, that takes quite a long time to shoot and to train, of course. And so that's something I always like in any character, in any film, the physicality of it. I just love when it's physically challenging. And but this has both, it's also very emotional, and it has both type of rides, emotionally and physically.
And you mentioned working with George Clooney as a director. What was it like working with him? And do you think that there's a difference working with a director who's also an actor, who might, understand the actor side a little more?
You said that right. You said that perfectly right, because I had the chance to work with actor directors before. I just did Robin Wright's first feature film. Quentin Tarantino is also an actor, a great actor. I love him. And now George. And yes, they do know how actors function, and they know what we love and hate. So they know how to do it. It's just like and we pretty much everything we need, they provide it to you. They provide it for you. And George Clooney, you don't become George Clooney just by being handsome. You know what I mean? You need to be extra talented, and you be multi-talented, just like this kid is. But also, you confirm that the biggest artists are also the nicest people and the most grounded human beings, and they understand that if you have everything you need to perform your best, then they will provide that, And I'm talking about the environment. I'm talking about, the actual atmosphere and whatever tools you need as an actor to play with and bring up, your character the best way you can.
Space movies set in space for me give me a lot of anxiety, because you're just off into the unknown. After doing a space film, would you ever go into space?
I agree with you, and I can't understand why, you could feel that. I think that's the same thing we feel now on this planet during this pandemic, because I think it has never been so clear that this is the only home we have, and we better take care of it. And that's exactly why I think this film is so timely, because we talk about, how wonderful we are in terms of how much science has achieved in the past, and how much is in our hands to make this better and to fix whatever we have done wrong. I would like to, yes, going out into space. Yeah, one day, why not? I'm very curious. I'm always, in search of. I always want to understand how everything moves and why is this and why is that. I must have driven my parents crazy when I was a kid. Why this? Why that?
I think I'm with you on the space exploration.
Oh,
absolutely.
Totally. No, totally. Once it's safe to go up there and come back in one piece, yes, count on me.